All right, guys, Big Mike 717 out, back with you another video working on the RD. So cutting off on the last video, we were running into some carb issues. I noticed that the left carburetor started pushing fuel out of the overflow because when I did that last video, there was fuel all over the lift. So I started looking, it's coming out of the left carb. And I think whenever I put those floats in upside down, I might have bent the arm that actuates the needle valve. So I'm gonna pull the carbs off. We're gonna check the arm, make sure that everything looks right. Then once we have that, we have one other issue to diagnose. So I was messing with it, and while I was trying to like test spark and things like that, I didn't really take notice to it. I don't know, to be honest, the last couple of days I've been having issues with my one ear, so I probably didn't hear it. And yeah, so I realized that in my last video, I'm able to kickstart this bike by hand, which last I remember when I used to ride dirt bikes, compression on these bikes is usually a lot harder. Like you have to actually kick it to get it to start. While I was able to push it by hand and get a pretty damn good compression out of it. But then after I started messing a little bit more, I started to notice a noise. And that noise, it sounds like air escaping, which you can probably kind of hear that, at least I hope you can hear it. On the compression stroke, there's air coming out between the jugs and the head. I don't know if Payson had told me whenever he was putting this thing together that the head gaskets were a little bit hard to find. So he ordered them, but he didn't remember if he put them in before he like completely buttoned up the motor. Well, not really buttoned it up, but like before he taped it all off and kind of had it sitting off to the side. So I'm gonna pull the head off and see if there is a head gasket, and if there isn't, that might have been the whole reason that this thing didn't want to fire to begin with. So yeah, we're gonna tear into this, see what it looks like, and we gotta double check the carbs first, and then we're gonna tear into the head and hopefully get this thing figured out. Yeah guys, so you can kind of see how there's a line. There's a line here and nothing here. A line here, nothing here. So we definitely found where the air was coming from. Looks like it was here and here. Heads and everything look great. So thank God Payson refreshed these because these things look mint. But now she's headless, and we definitely need gaskets. Well guys, I guess I should probably show you what's going on, or at least what I'm fixing here. So that little center piece on this arm is what actuates the needle valve. So what I'm doing here is actually adjusting the height for where it actually touches the needle valve underneath. You can kind of see that little post right in here. Is that so that way whenever the bowl fills up, it will shut the needle valve here at the top of where the floats would go. So you can see that little tab that sticks in there. This little, if this thing wants to focus with me, there's a little tab right in here on the float. That hits these arms, and that closes the carburetor and basically says, hey, the bowl is full. So what happened was when I had my fudge up is that this was compressed really far, and I'm pretty sure that I bent both of these, basically overflowing the carbs. So basically what we did here is we pulled them apart. I straightened them to where they're level with the arms, And now that they're level with the arms, the bowl should fill up to its appropriate level, and then it should shut off. Because before it was overflowing, it was pushing out of the overflow, which is usually this little nipple down here, because once the fuel gets up enough to where it can come out of this pipe, it goes to there and it flows out. It's a pretty telltale sign to say, hey, the carbs are getting way too full, and you got not a problem, but you do have something going on that is overfueling. And yeah, it's just an easy diagnosis when you're messing with that. So, but they're both looking good. I straightened them out. Hopefully that's good enough. If not, if we have to play with them later, if we have leaning issues, that means that there's not enough fuel going in the bowl with the rate that it's coming out of the tank. So, carbs are looking good. Just got to get this head going. And then once we get that new gasket in, old girl should be up and running. I think too, I might order the seat for this bike, and then hopefully once the seat comes in, we should be good to go. And then tighten these up. I am glad though too, some of you guys might be wondering why this has a hex head. Well, I went through and replaced these because a couple of these screws were the old Phillips. I always end up, I know that it's probably me over tightening them, but I always seem to end up stripping one of them. So these hex heads, you can get a pretty good amount of torque on them to tighten up the gasket, but they're a little bit less likely to strip out unless you really, really overdo it. But more than likely with the carbs being aluminum or cast, it's more than likely going to shred the threads before you round that. But carbs are looking good. I guess get them back on the bike. All right, guys, well, about over a week later, took a while for everything to come in, but found a guy on eBay, had OEM Yamaha head gaskets. So as you can see, those domes or those discs sit right here in this recess. So we're gonna go ahead, put some fresh head gaskets on it, and I think we're gonna try to fire her up. As we got that torqued up, I just wanted to try it for kind of shits and giggles. Yeah, that was definitely our problem, because this takes a hell of a lot more to push by hand. So now that we have good compression, I'm hoping that gas or a fresh thing of gas gets this thing to fire up. I will be so stoked to hear this thing. So I might try to give Payson a call, see if he wants to come over here for the first startup, but we're gonna get cranking here again, and hopefully see if we can get this old girl to fire up. Oh, come on. Curious. I'm gonna try this. If it works, and that was my fudge up. So that was my fudge up. I had the coils backwards, and I smoked out the whole shop. it.